In a small town somewhere in India, there lived a saint who was known throughout the region for his extraordinary purity of character, his patience, his equanimity, his complete unruffledness in the face of everything the world threw at him. People came from distant villages to sit near him, to ask him questions, to receive his blessing. Among these visitors was one man who had been wanting to ask the saint a question for a long time, and had finally worked up the courage to come. "Sir," he said, "your innocence puzzles me. How is it possible, in this corrupt and difficult world, to remain so completely untainted? How do you do it?" Somewhere beneath the question was a suspicion that perhaps the saint wasn't quite as pure as he appeared, that perhaps all this equanimity was a performance, that perhaps if you looked closely enough, you would find the same anxieties and desires and smallnesses that everyone else was carrying. The saint listened to the question with patience. Then he said, "I will answer you. But first, give me your hand." The man extended his hand. The saint took it, studied the palm for a long moment, and his expression changed. His eyes grew serious. Something like sorrow crossed his face. He was quiet for a moment longer than was comfortable. "What is it?" the man asked. "What do you see?" The saint looked up at him. "My friend," he said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but I can see clearly from your hand that you have only 7 days left to live. Next Sunday, by sundown, you will be gone." The man stared at him. "7 days?" "7 days," the saint said gently. "I am sorry. Now, you said you had a question for me?" The man had completely forgotten what the question was. He went home in a daze, and within a few hours, he was in bed. Not because anything was physically wrong with him, but because, well, he was dying. In 7 days. What else do you do? He stopped eating. He stopped sleeping properly. He stopped answering the door. He stopped thinking about work and the neighbor's irritating dog and whether his brother-in-law had repaid that loan. All of it simply stopped mattering. His family gathered around him with increasing alarm. Relatives arrived from out of town. His wife wept. His children sat beside his bed looking stricken. And through all of this, the man's condition deteriorated with each passing day. His body convinced entirely by what his mind believed. Sunday came. The family gathered. The sun began to move toward the horizon. His breathing grew labored. And at the appointed hour, the saint appeared at the door. He came in, sat beside the man, looked at him with those calm eyes, and asked, "Tell me, in these 7 days, did you indulge in any sinful thoughts? Any worldly desires? Anything you would call impurity or greed or corruption?" The man opened his eyes with some difficulty. He thought about it carefully. "How could I?" he said. "I have been dying. In the face of death, everything else simply vanished. I have only prayed. I have only thought of God. How could I think of anything else?" The saint looked at him for a long moment, and then he laughed. A full, warm, genuine laugh. The laugh of a man who has been waiting to deliver a punchline for 7 days. "You can get up now," he said. "You are not going to die. You were never going to die. Not on Sunday, anyway." The man sat up slowly, looked at the saint, looked at his weeping family, looked at the relatives who had traveled from out of town. Then what was all of this? The saint smiled. This, he said, was the answer to your question. You asked how I remain pure in a corrupt world. Now you know. Death surrounds me always. How does it matter if it arrives in 7 days, or 7 years, or 70 years? It is coming. It is always coming. And once that becomes completely clear to you, once it settles into your bones as a fact rather than an idea, life goes through a radical change. The things that seem so urgent, the desires, the grievances, the need to be seen in a certain way, all of it falls away. The way it fell away for you this week. The man looked at his hands, his perfectly healthy hands, and something in him that had been wound very tight for a very long time quietly let go. We all know that we are going to die, in the way that we know that the sun will rise tomorrow, as an idea, as a fact we have filed away somewhere, that we do not take out and look at very often. The saint looked at it every day, not with dread, not with morbidity, but with the clear-eyed attention of someone who understands that a life lived in full awareness of its own finitude is a completely different kind of life. I'll leave you with one question today. If you had 7 days, what would fall away? This has been The Long Thread. Ancient stories for the present moment. If this story stayed with you, follow the long thread and wake up to a new one tomorrow.